So hi, I'm Mark. I'm talking about cost plus pricing and some of the problems that we've seen working with pricing management over the years. First is that people create price sheets. They just love to create their price sheets, and a lot of times they create their price sheets based on a whole bunch of different formulas or magic voodoo. They put them in Excel. Sometimes they import them into their ERP or their accounting system. And with those price sheets, they say, this is what we're going to sell things at. And then time goes on and they sell stuff at that rate. What happens oftentimes is that the costs of the items that they're selling tend to go up over time, and there's no relationship between the cost of what they paid for things and what it's being sold for. So if there's not a tie between the cost of something and the price sheets are published, if you forget to update your price sheets, it could be, well, you erode margins and you are not making as much profit as you think you might be. I've seen places where they sometimes forget to update prices and they're actually selling things for less than what they're paying for them. It's a real problem. So it's really important to make sure that your price that you sell something at is in some ways tied to cost. And that can be a very effective way to make sure that you are making money and guaranteeing some profit. And that is what is called cost plus pricing, where we take the cost of an item and we add a plus or we add something to it to come up with a selling price. Now, if you have manual updates for what you're selling stuff for, if you're manually updating those price sheets, it can be very, very cumbersome. And let's suppose you had 10,000 items and then costs raise on just like 100 of those items. Well, are you going to update your entire spreadsheet based on the cost of those items? It can be really effective if you instead have a system like Rockton Pricing Management, where whenever the cost changes, that automatically the price at which you're selling at updates automatically. That way, if the cost changes, you don't have to do anything. The price is just magically, poof, it's there and it's updated. That is a very, very smart way to go. Now, one thing that's about costs that a lot of people miss is that there are some costs that are hidden. So if you have a magic formula to where you're doing cost plus and you're adding, say, 38% to stuff, you might be in a place where some items cost more than other items to deliver them, such as if you have some landed costs or some extra shipping things. So does it make sense to mark up everything, every price to be the same amount percentage over what the cost is? It might not. You might want to look at things like landed costs, things like your delivery fees. You might want to actually consider that you sell certain items on promotions or you run promotions all the time. You might want to bake in the actual promotional discount that you have into the cost and raise the cost a bit more for those items that are discounted there. And then regulations and rules change over time. You might have some tariffs that suddenly get invoked that you have to deal with. And that's a real cost to a business, and it's unlikely you're going to want to eat that. And so it's very typical to want to pass it along to the customers in the form of price. But tariffs don't affect everything that you sell. So you want to be sure to mark up just the things that you have tariffs on that are affected by the tariff in your updated prices. Which comes to this concept is that there is no one size that fits all. It is unlikely that you're going to want to find some overhead magic percentage, say 38% markup, that every single item that you sell gets marked up that amount in order to sell at a certain price. So it is more appropriate to want to segregate your items, such as those items that have tariffs and those that don't, those items that have landed costs or have some shipping costs involved in them for you to secure them, and divide those up and add certain percentages or certain points to certain discounts or fees or whatever that you have, certain costs to the overall package. And by dividing up your items into those things that have landed costs or those things that have tariffs, you can segregate and mark up appropriately for just the items that those are affected by. Likewise, you may want to mark up your items based on a customer class or groupings of customers. And so it's really handy to say if you have gold, silver, bronze customers, you want to treat them differently. So you mark up different tiers or different amounts for those different customers. That can be a really wise way to figure out how to segregate your customers into different groupings and mark them up and have the selling price be a little bit different. So this one size fits all doesn't work very well. The ability to segregate into groups by items, grouping your items into categories, into groups, grouping your customers into items or groups, or items into things, those that have certain costs or landed costs or promotions involved, can be very handy. And of course, Rockton Pricing Management handles all that as well. And finally, it's really important that this integrates seamlessly with your ERP or your accounting system. It's really important for an end user to not have to go look up an Excel spreadsheet and figure out what a price is. You just say, I'm typing away. Oh, I got to go look at the price sheet. There, it's $1.25. Type that $1.25 in, and then realize, oh, they're actually a line off. If you are retyping information, it's fraught with human error. That is not a very good idea. So you want the user experience when they're doing data entry is they put the item in, they put the quantity in, and the price, boom, it's just there. It has all of those things baked in about what the cost should be, how it got calculated. In fact, the user doesn't even need to know how all of that stuff is calculated. And they should just be able to go on their merry way and enter items and have the prices and the documents come out accurately 100% of the time without any worry. And that way you can guarantee that you're getting profitability, you're getting the right margins for all the right stuff in all the right ways. So those are some tips about cost plus pricing. Hope that's helpful to you.